Hey there, you guys. How are you? Welcome to the Holy Shed. It's great to be back here after our short break and to have you all around in this here littlest parish in Christendom, just at the bottom of our garden, as it goes. Now, look, I'm guessing your Easter eggs are long gone, and if not, I'd like to know why. Ours certainly are. But according to the church calendar, it's still Easter. Today, in fact, is the last Sunday in Easter. And throughout this Easter season, we've been thinking in the Holy Shed about the theme of practicing resurrection. That might sound a little bit funny, but it's a line from a poem by Wendell Berry that calls us to practice resurrection rather than simply, holding it as a doctrine or an abstract idea or an event in the past or one that we look forward to in the future, but rather asking, what does it mean now to live with the resurrection presence of Christ within us and within the world all around? Practicing resurrection, as I see it, means being alive to God by being fully alive to life in all its beautiful diversity. Last time in the shed, just before me and Pat flew off to Canada, our theme was do what makes you come alive. The world needs people who are alive. It's part of a quote from Howard Thurman, who was a theologian, a civil rights activist, a mentor to Martin Luther King, actually. And this is what he actually said. He said, don't ask what the world needs. That's the wrong starting point. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. That's a great quote, and has a great deal to say about the business of calling and of vocabulary and all that. The thing in life that we need to discover is what makes us come alive. Today, I want to expand on this thought by, having a last bite of the Easter egg, as it were, before we move on. Now, I often harp on about how easily we can end up merely existing in the world rather than living, kind of sleepwalking, if you will, through our days. It's when we become preoccupied or bogged down with stuff in the past or in the future, or worries and anxieties and things in the present that keep us from being fully alive to the present moment. As I see it, being Easter people, which is another definition of Christians, I think, being Easter people means responding to the call of resurrection, to the life imparting presence of Christ in everything, in all its diversity around us. So I'd like to begin by saying how much our too short time in Canada made me more fully alive. And I don't just mean the magnificence of British Columbia, although sitting in my nephew Andrew and his wife Jodie's house and watching hummingbirds on the bird feeder just outside the window, that definitely made me feel more alive. I don't see that in Somerset or London or wherever. But no, it wasn't that. It was the sheer joy of being with precious loved ones who we haven't either seen for far too long or who actually we were meeting for the first time. And you know what? It was a feast of life and love and joy that we didn't want to come to an end, quite frankly. Last Christmas, our daughter Jenny gave us the gift of a DNA test. I don't think she was doing that for any weird motives, if you know what I mean. No, I think, she gave it to us because we're all kind of a bit interested in this stuff, aren't we? And we duly spat into our little tubs and sent them off. And then, lo and behold, the 4 close matches it returned for me were my niece Sally's 4 beautiful daughters in Canada. Obviously, it only matches with people who've already done the test themselves. Otherwise, it certainly would have revealed a whole array of matches for me over there. But it wasn't just this genetic connection stuff with my brother's family that brought me such joy. There was that, but it was the love and friendship which we felt, which we renewed and discovered and shared with each and every one of them and with their partners and all of their loved ones. I just want to say to any of you gorgeous Canada gang who are with us today in the shed, Martin, Andrew, Wendy on the Wirral, Sally, your lovely partners, and all of your gorgeous offspring. A million thanks for your love and friendship that brings us such life and joy. We love you all, and not to be too threatening about it, we'll be back. Now, that said, it wasn't all happy clappy over there. On our second day, we visited the grave of my brother Fred and his wife Sheila. Fred passed away suddenly in November 2021. He was 7 years my senior, as you can sort of see from this picture. And, with a seriously disabled dad, Fred was somewhere between a big brother and a dad to me. And, he took care of me. He was a very precious big brother. We'd also hoped on this trip to spend time with Sheila, but sadly, she passed just a couple of months ago. And, growing up with these two people was amazing, really. And throughout my life, they've been our friends. I giggled so much with Sheila when we were young. We were just great pals, and much to the annoyance of Fred, I think, at times. But we all had a lot of fun together. And our dad prayed every night. I often sat on the stairs listening to him when I was supposed to be in bed. And he prayed every night that his two lads would become preachers of God's word. I doubt it turned out exactly as he imagined. Neither of us are the brethren-style preachers that he probably had in mind. But you know what? His prayers were answered. Both of us devoted our lives to preaching and teaching about Jesus. However unlikely the prospect of that might have appeared back then. And this is my favourite picture of Fred, just to share that with you. Everywhere I went in Canada, all of my offspring or their offspring, who my relatives who had not met before, were sort of seeing me walking around and seeing Fred. I think I'd have to grow a nice beard first, wouldn't I? But you know what? Standing at Fred and Sheila's grave with Pat and Andrew and Jody, holding hands and saying a prayer of gratitude for the two of them, that also brought its own sense of aliveness. Because do you know what? Sorrow as well as joy is part of coming alive, because it's part of life. And, as an Enneagram type 7, an epicure as we're often called, my natural inclination is to focus on the positive, upbeat aspects of life, on life's joys. But I've learned, I'm still learning, that if I'm to live my life fully and wholly and avoid sleepwalking through whole chunks of it, I have to be awake to sorrow as well as joy, experience the challenging, hard parts, as well as the attractive, pleasurable bits. At an Enneagram workshop in San Francisco some years ago, where I was seated in front of 45 people being interviewed about what it means to be a 7, I was asked by the interviewer, how do you deal with the darker, painful bits of life? Well, without thinking, I said, turn up the volume. It was just a kind of off-the-cuff comment. But actually, I think it was very revealing, because by that I meant I distract myself with pleasanter things, more pleasant songs, as it were, than the dark songs that may be the track of my life at that particular time. But of course, part of growing and evolving in life means learning to process the bits that we don't like as well as those that we do. Taking in the difficult stuff as well as amusing ourselves with the happy parts. Why? Because, as I say, it's all our life, right? It's all our life, the happy and the sad. And I want to live all of it, don't you? I don't want to live part of my life and just kind of in a comatose state pass through the rest. I want to live it all, every minute, the happy and the sad. Now, I know from experience that this isn't easy. When we're anxious or upset or when we are grieving, Well, of course, it isn't easy. But the fact remains, as Jesus put it, which of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life? And he went on to say, so do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring worries of its own. Today's trouble is enough for today. In other words, be mindful of the now. Live fully in the present. Stay alive, stay human. Don't be sucked down into this sort of comatose state. Now, as I say, easier said than done. But I've seen people, very sadly, I've seen people worry their way through years, I mean literally years of life, basically sleepwalking through their days because of things basically that they had no control over. They can do nothing about them. I mean, when my mum was ill in hospital and I worried that she was about to leave us, Pat told me, you're grieving her before she's gone, Dave. And how right that was. And we can all do that so easily, can't we? In fact, my mum ended up coming home after that, and we had a few more months with her. But either way, my worrying achieved nothing other than to anesthetize me to life in the meantime. I was sleepwalking. My best memory of the Bee Gees song, and I'm sure you recognize that in the title of today's shed, my best memory of Stayin Alive is dancing hilariously in our daughter Jenny's kitchen with their mini disco lights flashing around the room and the volume full blast. She and her partner Tim often dance in the kitchen. I think that's a great virtue, actually. And, they've done it through some pretty testing times. I think, when in doubt, have a dance. And that song is one of the best loved dance songs, of course, of all time. But it's worth bearing in mind that the subject matter isn't especially cheerful. In an interview, the Bee Gees revealed that it's basically about surviving on the streets of New York. It's about people crying out for help, Barry Gibb said. And he went on, everybody struggles against the world, fighting all the bullshit and things that can drag you down. And it really is a victory sometimes just to survive. But when you climb back on top and win bigger than ever before, he said, well, that's something everybody reacts to, everybody. And he's saying that's really why that song has such great appeal. It is hilariously fun as a song to dance to and to sing along with. But it's not by coincidence that actually we're doing that with a song whose subject matter is quite dark, actually, because that's life. It's holding these things together. Now, survival's great, and we will need to learn to survive in life against all kinds of adversity. But Easter is about something more. It's about resurrection, not survival. It's about the birth of fresh hope, of new possibilities, not merely coping with grief or hardship, but rising above it. Now, my favourite singer, one of them, Nick Cave, who had plenty of grief and hardship, by the way, in recent times with the tragic death of two of his sons, says that resurrection is the full depth of creativity. And we get tastes of it, he says, in the thrill and spark of human imagination. So he says resurrection has to do with creativity, newness. It has to do with imagination. It opens up new possibilities in which we may say, well, perhaps, maybe. And we open ourselves to fresh possibilities, to new births. For Nick Cave, Mary Magdalene is the true hero of the Christian story. And I like that he says that because she's one of my great heroes. And she and the other Mary, of course, stood in front of the tomb of Christ in steadfast vigil, waiting for Christ to appear. And it's that capacity that we all have to stand in front of all kinds of tombs in life. Loss of health, loss of work, loss of youth, loss of relationship. It's our capacity to stand in front of those little tombs in life, or maybe big tombs in life, actually, and steadfastly look for something fresh to appear. That is what Nick Cave is saying, is what practicing resurrection is all about. I often say that faith and hope are basically functions of the human imagination. I'm not saying they're just imagination, but the mechanism within us through which they work is that of human imagination. As I often say, hope is defiant imagination in the face of despair. So this, guys, is how I interpret the idea of practicing resurrection. It's when we face the world ready to be surprised by joy, looking for life out of death. Every time we face into the challenging, painful realities of the world in hope, it's like we're looking for the birth of something new, a creative idea or fresh way forward. And it's all about imagination. So to practice resurrection, I think, is to practice a new imagination. And indeed, I think that whenever we bring new creative ideas into the world, on whatever level in life, or works of art or poetry, or whenever we look past a present darkness toward light with expectation, we are practicing resurrection right there. Looking at the world right now is not encouraging, frankly. There's so much to feel depressed about, so much to fear or feel anxious about. Maybe there are things in your own life that feel intimidating or worrying. But here's the thing, worrying does nothing useful. It does nothing apart from eat away at us, cause us to shrink inside, to contract and fall asleep to any right action that we may be able to take. You remember in the middle of the pandemic, in fact, right at the beginning of the Holy Shed, I wrote a serenity prayer for us. And I think it's deeply relevant to all of this. God grant me the serenity to live fully and generously through circumstances I cannot control. Hope to keep on imagining better times for myself and the world. And courage to change what I can instead of simply leaving it to others. Amen. Too often we screw ourselves up about things that we can't possibly change, and meanwhile omit to do things that we definitely can do something about. And that, I think, takes us to the nub of what this whole theme of practicing resurrection is about. So that's it for now, and but we're going to drink a toast. And if you've got something there, as I have here, nice, then I invite you to take a glass or a mug or whatever it is that you've got to hand and join me in a toast to staying awake on the inside, a toast to living each moment as fully as we can, whether it be pleasurable or challenging, a toast to being spreaders of hope and fresh imagination wherever we can in the world, and a toast to Fred and Sheila, and to all of your precious ones too, dear Shedsters, to life, l'chaim. And just to add to that, I'm holding up in my prayers today a very faithful, dedicated Shedster called Sue, and you may wish to do that too. She's going through a bit of an anxious, worrying time right now. And I pray that she will be able to stay awake to the goodness and to the joy of life whilst dealing with the challenge of things that are confronting her right now. And that may be true for many others as well. So there you go. If you like what I'm doing in the Holy Shed, you can support us. You can buy us a coffee by simply following the link on the screen. It's all very simple, and we are deeply grateful to all those of you who do support us in this way. And I said before I left that if you were ordering copies of OMG, my Bad Christians Book of Prayers, while we were away in Canada, obviously I wouldn't be able to send them. Well, we're back now. So if you're looking for a signed copy, then you can order that in the shop on the coffee site. Of course, it's also available on Amazon and other places. And by the way, shops should be able to stock it now too. So if you've got a local shop, why not give them a prod and see if they'll stock the book there too. So yeah, one last little notice I think is that this week on Wednesday at lunchtime on Wednesday, I shall be hosting a soul space. It's a Zoomed event called, and it's on the theme, the Messy Temple of Life, with a rather gorgeous Banksy picture there. It's about an hour of music videos, film clips, stories, and maybe poetry, images, and a bit of me yakking and yakking if I can get my voice back. So if you can join me for that, 12:30, I shall be posting a link in the next day or so, and it'd be great to have you join me for that. And that's really just about it for now. So I want to thank you for joining me today, and I hope you have a great week. As I often say, be kind to the world, be kind to yourself, stay human. And I'm going to finish actually with, I was going to say a prayer from my OMG book, but in fact, it's really more of a creed or an affirmation called I Believe in Living. And I'm going to do a different recording of this and post it this week. I believe in living now, grabbing life by the scruff of the neck and never putting it on hold for another time. I believe the future is open, not fixed, that we can help create what is yet to be. I believe faith is a stroke of imagination, which, though tiny as a mustard seed, can shift mountains. I believe hope is our greatest deterrent against waves of pessimism and despair. I believe love can repel a tsunami of ill intention, making friends out of enemies. I believe in life before death, that befriending death empowers us to live better lives now. I believe in knowing our limits, but never limiting who we are or can be. I believe uncertainty is a virtue, keeping faith alive for new possibilities. I believe people who intimidate and coerce are weak, ridiculous, and less than half alive. I believe in being who we are without apology and welcoming everything that can help us to grow and evolve. I believe in living fully in this world, not waiting for another. Amen. Have a good week, guys. See you soon. Bye.